How many of you have ever been hurt? Yeah, I know. All of us have been hurt at some point, right? So I pulled a muscle in my back. Now this happens quite frequently. I pulled a muscle when I was pregnant with my first child, and since then the muscle in my lower back has just been, super sensitive. It doesn't take much. As a matter of fact, I pulled my muscle this time sneezing. The closer I get to 40, the easier it seems to be to pull this muscle. Anyways, so I pulled my back muscle, and like I've said, I've done it multiple times, and I have treated it 3 different ways. The first way is to ignore that I'm hurt, ignore that my back is killing me, and push forward and do whatever it is I feel like I have to get done. And in pushing past what I'm physically able to do, I've hurt it more and ended up having to take longer to recover. So what would take a couple of weeks turned into 3 or 4 months and me not being able to stand up straight. Or I have also pulled the muscle in my back and I have babied it, because that's like what we do, right? You get hurt, you don't want to move much, so I have babied this muscle. So I babied it and babied it and babied it and babied it and babied it. And then what could have been healed quicker or lasted, 3 months longer, still takes about 6 weeks to heal, because I'm not doing anything. I'm just resting it. That's all I'm doing. And I'm not going to try to use it again for a while. It's hurt and I don't want to risk re-injuring it. Now, this time, this is what I have found. I pulled my back muscle, and for the first couple of days, I iced it and I put heat on it and I babied it, and I didn't bend over and I didn't lift anything heavy, and I just tried not to re-injure it. Now, after a couple of days, I put my back brace on. Why? Because sometimes it needs a little extra support, right? I put my back brace on and I started walking on the treadmill. Nothing strenuous, just working. And I started doing a few stretches, just some easy stretches, cat-cow pose, if you know what that is, and just trying to stretch out that muscle without re-injuring it. After a day or 2 of doing that, back brace comes off. And now I'm able to walk on the treadmill 20-30 minutes, and I'm able to do the programs, so I'm able to do more strenuous, walking, 9 miles an hour versus, 5 or 6. And my back was injured last week, Saturday, I believe it was. And by today, which is almost a week later, I can barely even notice that it was hurt. Now, I'm not going to overdo it. I'm not going to go pick up an elephant or anything. But I don't have to worry about it so much, because it's already past the point that I have to think about it much. So, what does that have to do with y'all, right? I mean, I'm just giving you education and muscle, right? Well, what happens when you have surgery on something? Or, I had knee surgery when I was a teenager. And as soon as I had the knee surgery, I got maybe a week off, and then I started what they called physical therapy. I called it physical torture. And they literally worked with my knee to restore the mobility to it and to keep it from, losing any of mobility in the healing process. And if you've ever had a surgery like that, you know that is what they do. You go to rehab, you work through it. What does that have to do with you, right? What does that have to do with life? Well, because we've all been hurt. We've all been hurt. We've been spiritually hurt. We've been physically hurt. We've been mentally hurt. We've been emotionally hurt. And our initial reaction is always to pull away, right? To protect ourselves, to not get injured again. And that's a natural response, and that's good, because when you're hurt, you do need to take some time to breathe. You need to take some time to evaluate. You need to take some time to make sure you put yourself in a position for the hurt to heal. Now, you cannot baby it forever. There comes a point when you have to say, okay, I've been babying this hurt. I have been nursing this hurt. Now's the time for me to start doing a little bit of emotional rehab, right? I need to start putting myself out there a little bit. Maybe not a whole lot. I don't have to run a marathon. But I need to start allowing people back into my life. Now, if you've been hurt, you haven't usually been hurt by everybody. You've just been hurt by somebody, or maybe a group of somebodies. This is a good time to put on your back brace. This is a good time when you call on your core group. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your pastor, or maybe it's you and God. You put that back brace on and you start just a little bit at a time, rebuilding the trust muscle, reworking that trust muscle. And before long, you'll be able to take off that brace. You won't need to look to God every time somebody says, hey, you want to go out for lunch, and they're trying to start a friendship. You aren't going to have to look to God every time and be like, God, is this going to get me hurt? Because even if it does get you hurt, the putting yourself out there was worth it, because your muscles are getting stronger. Your emotions are getting stronger. You're growing in God. Isn't that what God did? He watched Judas's feet. He knew Judas was fixing to betray him. He'd already set the plan in motion to betray Jesus. And Jesus still knelt down and washed his feet. Now, that being said, he did keep him at a distance. He was not one of the inner three. But there comes a time when we have to take the pain and the hurt that we felt and open ourselves back up. Because if we don't, we'll never heal. If I baby my back for the rest of my life, I will always walk stooped and never be at my full potential, because I'm always going to be afraid of re-hurting my back. And we can't be that way in life. And you say, now, do you have any Bible for that? Well, absolutely. Judas betrayed Jesus. Yes, he did. So did Peter. Peter was one of his inner three. Peter betrayed Jesus. Peter was the only disciple Jesus asked for by name when he resurrected. He told the women when they seen him, he said, you go and tell my disciples that I have risen from the grave, and tell Peter. Tell Peter. Why did he want him to tell Peter? Because he wanted Peter to know, I'm reaching back out to you. I'm reopening myself up to see if I'm going to be hurt again. I love you enough, Peter, to risk it. And even after he got around Peter again, when they were fishing and they come to the shore and Jesus was there, Jesus asked him, Peter, do you love me? 3 times he asked him that, the same amount of times that he betrayed him. Why? Well, Jesus was putting the feelers out. He just handed this guy the keys of the kingdom in heaven. He said, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. He needed to make sure he could trust Peter this time, that he wasn't going to make the same mistake. Yeah, that was Jesus reaching out with the back brace on. He was testing the waters. But then what happens? He says, okay, y'all, I'm gone. Y'all handle this. Y'all got this. You're going to do greater works than me. And he ascends up into heaven. And Peter goes and sits in the upper room until he gets the Holy Ghost. And then he becomes a magnificent preacher. And he goes and does many miracles, so much so that people are healed by just sitting in his shadow, because God's power was that strong on him. You might be missing out on your best friendship yet because you've locked yourself away for fear of being hurt. And I say this from the heart because I've been that person. I have been betrayed by my best friend and reached back out to them, and it didn't work out. So I locked myself in a box, and I was not going to let people in. But the love of Jesus is too strong, and he sent some godly women into my life that wouldn't leave me alone. They kept showing me Jesus' love over and over and over again. And no matter how much I tried to push them away, and no matter how hard I tried to protect my hurt, the love of God was just too strong in them. And what ended up happening was I had to lay down my walls. I had to put aside my fears. And I have some of the greatest friendships with these ladies now. Is there a chance that they'll ever hurt me? Absolutely. But the time that we have now is worth it. It's worth the risk. Because I truly believe if any of them hurt me, it wouldn't be intentionally, and there would have to be a restoration process. We would have to, there would have to be an apology, and there would have to be some time, some conversation. But I truly believe it could be restored because my friendship with these ladies is too great. This is the best friendships I have had in my whole life. or in the relationship with my husband and God. You could be missing out on that kind of intimacy in a friendship if you keep nursing your hurt. I know it's scary and I know that it's hard, but it's possible. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And don't you think it's time? How long are you going to let that hurt rule your life? It's time for you to get healed. Talk to Jesus about it and tell him, I'm ready to be healed. And start exercising again. Start working that trust muscle again. So you can live life and live it more abundantly.